Hey guys, bear with me a second while I get this stuff set up. Um, this is just what I've been doing every day, like as a warm up. I used to do these where I had to complete them all without missing, and if I missed, I started over. I quit that here a couple weeks ago, but I'm still doing this as like a daily warm up, first shots of the day type of thing. Make sure my arms lubricated and all that. I figured I would shoot these while I yammer about a topic. This is brought up to me in one of my comments on one of my other videos about my opinion on forward weighted cues versus rear weighted cues. And the person did ask, what are your thoughts? He didn't ask what is best. And I'm glad, because I don't ever want to be one of those guys that says this is what's best, when I don't know. I just know myself. And honestly, even for myself, I don't know a whole lot about what's better for me between forward weighted and rear weighted cues. One of the things that I'll often do, when I'm overthinking something, and I do overthink things a lot, is I like exaggerate. So I've got a 20-ounce cue here. What if 19 of those ounces were up here at the ferrule, and the rest of the cue is made out of like balsa wood or something really light? It seems to me that at that point I would have like zero control over what's going on back here, because there'd be nothing substantial at all in my hand at all. If of that 20 ounces on this cue, if this was all balsa wood, but I had a 19-ounce weight back here behind my grip hand, then it seems to me like this all would be pretty uncontrollable. Because again, I wouldn't have anything substantial up there. All right, what does that kind of tell me? That kind of tells me that, well, I want my weight somewhere in the middle. Duh. I really think it's mostly just what a person is used to. A lot of times you'll see like a pro or whatever and say they want a 20.001 ounce cue. They want the balance point to be however many inches back. This is 27.345 inches. That's what they want. And a lot of times that's because that's what they have. And that's what they're used to. So for me, the balance point on this cue is about an inch in front of the rab. Does that mean that's best for me? Yeah, right now. But if I pick up another cue and play with it for a while and get used to it, then whatever the balance point is of that cue is probably best for me at that point. I don't know what is best for me. And honestly, I don't think there is a number, as far as balance point goes, that's best. It's just whatever I'm used to within reason. Having all my weight up here is not reasonable. Having all my weight back here is not reasonable. I kind of want the balance point to be, between my grip hand and my bridge hand. It doesn't have to be exactly halfway, but I kind of want to feel like, I have something substantial back here. I have something substantial up here. It's a well-balanced cue. That's what I want. And there's going to be a range where I can get used to almost anything, any balance point, again, within reason. That's what I think. So those are my thoughts. I don't have an opinion on, is a forward weighted cue better than a rear weighted cue. I think it's mostly whatever you're used to. Now, there are going to be people that the really tall people, for the most part, that are gripping way back here. Maybe they want that balance point to be further back because they're gripping way back here. Maybe some people are gripping further forward. They want their balance point to be forward. But again, that's just kind of just a guess. I really think it's mostly whatever you're used to. You know, Alex is shorter than I am, but he grips way at the back of the cue and has a really long bridge. I don't know where his balance point is on his cue, but I guarantee wherever it is, he's used to it. Because guess what? Alex shoots pretty darn well. You know, Grady Matthews was a pretty tall guy, but he did a lot of his shots hunched way up, short bridge and hunched way up and all that. And again, I don't know what that was, but he was used to it. And guess what? Grady shot pretty darn well too. That's just the extent of my opinion on forward weighted or rear weighted. If you can get used to it, I think if you can feel something substantial in your grip hand, feel something substantial up here, the cue feels somewhat balanced, then it's probably just fine. It may not be the perfect balance point for you. Maybe there's not a perfect balance point. The perfect balance point for me right now is an inch in front of the wrap. But that's because I've been shooting with this cue for a long time. Pick up another cue with a different balance point, and then all of a sudden, that will be the perfect balance point for me. So that's my thoughts on that. When I was thinking about this question, I got thinking about not just forward weighted versus rear weighted, but also got thinking about length as well. Length of the cue. And the reason I was doing that is, so let's say, let me take my break stick. This is my Sean break stick, and I have just so happen to have an extendo thing in the middle here. So this is just a standard 58-inch cue. I think this is like 19 and a half ounces. Don't know. The balance point is certainly different than on my Southwest. But again, if I shot there long enough, I would get used to it. If I take it apart in the middle, 5/16, 14 takes a long time to screw and unscrew, and put on this thing. This thing is not very heavy, okay, but it does have some weight to it because it is a physical object. And I put this on. But whatever the balance point was of this cue before I just did this, wherever it was, and I forgot to measure it, but it's now further forward because I just added some weight right here. So if it was an inch in front of the wrap, now it's several inches in front of the wrap because I just added some weight. But even not talking about the actual weight, let's say some magic world, this cue weighs exactly the same right now as it used to, but the balance point has been shifted. And that's what happened is I just shifted the balance point. I don't think it makes any difference. It's what we're used to. What does make a difference to me is the fact that the cue is now longer. And I believe that a longer cue, like this is, well, it was 58, and I guess I'm adding like 8 inches to it. So what is that, 64 inches, 66 inches? I believe that this cue will hold its line better when I go to shoot, which is a good thing as long as you're on the line. If you're on the right line to begin with, I believe a longer cue will help you to hold that line. Earl Strickland and Jason Shaw may back me up on this. I think that's one of the reasons they have longer cues. If I'm on the right line for this 8, I have more of a tendency to stay on that line and not accidentally veer off than if, say, I had my jump cue as my main cue. I talked about this in a video before. If I had my jump cue as my main cue, little short thing, I'm not talking about the weight right now of it, although it is pretty damn light. It's a jump cue. This guy, is much easier to move around and veer off the line and all that. This can be a good thing, okay? If I'm one of those people that uses backhand English, especially if I'm one of those people that uses like a swerving type of backhand English, and that would be not coming back and then stroking straight, but kind of swerving as they stroke. Sure, you can deviate from the line all really easy with this thing. If you're in a pro player, if you have one, sees you're going forward, it's, oh crap, we need to make a little micro adjustment. It's a lot easier to make those micro adjustments with something like this that's shorter. It's not a gyroscopic action that keeps a cue in a straight line, but I guess it's similar. I just don't know what the term is for it. It's a shorter cue will deviate off of the line more easily and can be, even on purpose, deviated off that line more purposely. For example, like with the swerving type of backhand English. A longer cue will hold that line more easily. You just need to be on line correctly because it's harder to make those micro adjustments I talked about. I could go back like to the exaggeration thing I talked about before. If I wasn't sure about some of the stuff I just said about cue length, I could take this apart. This is a 3/8 10. It doesn't take quite as long, and this is my cue. I'm shaft boy. I shoot with the shaft. This thing is again negating the weight. This thing is just so darn easy to move. It's ridiculous. It's too easy to move. But if I had this cue with a middle extension, adding out 8 inches, and I don't have a middle extension for my Southwest, that really does seem like that would be some type of blasphemy. But I do have a rear extension, which again, some people would say is some type of blasphemy. So this cue right now, negating the weight, will hold this line better than it would 10 seconds ago before I put this on because of the length. That's just my opinion. And again, I think some people will back me up on that. Some people might not. I don't know. Everybody is different, in case I've never mentioned that. And I really do think that the biggest thing about what's the best, weight balance is whatever you're used to at the time. I don't think anything within reason, any kind of a balance point within reason, is going to make that big of a difference once a person gets used to whatever they're playing with. The length of the cue can be a little bit different because if I was 3 feet tall, I might not be able to wield something like this very comfortably. It might always feel like it had way too much weight in the back. Because remember, I'm 3 feet tall, I'm up here like this. It might always feel like it's wanting to tip backwards on me. If I'm 500 feet tall, probably every cue is going to feel like the weight is too far forward because there's nothing behind you if you're 500 feet tall. I think the length of a cue does matter. What are your physical characteristics? What is your physical shooting style? What are you doing? But as far as the balance point, the forward weight, the rear weight, I could absolutely be wrong. Maybe some physicist has calculated all this out and can prove you want a forward weighted cue, or you want a cue with a balance point that is 6.23 inches in front of your grip. I don't know those numbers. And my personal opinion is those numbers can change easily depending on what the player is shooting with. They're going to get used to it. You're going to get used to the length of the cue, sort of, but the length of the cue it can be too much. You could have too long of a cue for your own build and shooting style. You can have too short of a cue for your own build and shooting style. The same thing with, I guess, just overall weight. If I had a 100-ounce pull cue, I probably wouldn't shoot very well. I'd probably shoot worse than I do now, anyway, is what I'm saying. Or if I had a 2-ounce pull cue, it would be the same thing. It'd be too light or too heavy. I think you get used to so much of that kind of stuff, though. And so I don't really have this is the best or this is the worst. And I'm glad the guy did not ask me that. And thanks for the video idea. I'm always looking for video ideas. I think it's what you get used to, but it has to be within reason. I don't want to shoot with a pull cue that weighs as much as a paperclip. I don't want to shoot with a pull cue that weighs more than I do. I don't want to balance point all the weights on the tip or all the weights on the bumper. I don't want those kind of things. Everything's kind of got to be within reason for a somewhat normally shaped human being that has a somewhat normal shooting style. That's what I think. Okay, thanks, guys.